Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
My name is Craig. I'm an alcoholic. I'm not originally from Los Angeles. Or any of the counties around it. I believe there's an overflow room as well where people are watching who aren't in this room. Hi. Call your sponsor. It's okay. No one is excluding you. Least of all me. I never been at a convention before, and I've been to meetings before. It's all right, but I've never been at a convention before. I've been to a couple of dances and a couple of stuff, where there's a lot of people who are very vivid and pleased. AA events with a lot of aftershave and good time, gosh darn it. But I've never been to a convention before. Look at you, gosh, you're amazing. I've been sitting just looking at you. We were sitting up here in the usual wonder of AA organization. We arrived before you arrived and sat up at the top table, and I watched you come in, and you are spectacular. You're spectacular. Thank you for letting me be here. I'm originally, as I say, not from LA. I'm from a town called Glasgow in Scotland, which, if you had ever been there, you wouldn't be woo-hooing. If you don't know Glasgow, if you imagine the movie Braveheart set in Detroit in 1974, it'll give you a fair... It's a rough town. And a lot of people drink there. A lot of people there are Scottish, and a lot of people there are... There's a lot of Irish people there as well. My family are Irish and Scottish, so I was pretty much, I arrived alcoholic, I think. If you're new, and this is your first convention, or if you're just new to AA, or if you're in early sobriety, I must stress to you that I do not represent any grading within AA. I do not speak for AA. I do not speak for anyone else. I don't speak for a committee. I haven't got a hotline to New York or some kind of committee that tells you what to say. And if I offend you, particularly those of you in Al-Anon, I'm sorry. But when I do offend the Al-Anon people, at least I won't be lying about saying I'm an alcoholic. I am, in fact, what I say I am. I was, let me see, I was a bedwetter as a child. I don't say that to impress the Al-Anon women, although it has worked in the past. Bedwetter, eh? I can do something about that. I was a bedwetter as a child. I stopped wetting the bed when I was about 13, and then I started drinking when I was about 14. And started wetting the bed again when I was 14. And I stopped drinking on the 18th of February 1992 when I was 29 years old, and I haven't wet the bed since. So I stopped wetting the bed before I was 30, so go Scotland. I was very concerned when I came to AA. I was very worried that, that I was joining some kind of some kind of hybrid between Weight Watchers and the Moonies or something. And it kind of is. And I don't care. I was done. Oh, I was so tired. I drank, though, because I needed it. I needed a drink. I drank. I can't really explain why I drank. I've gone through the steps. I've done an inventory. I've done more than one inventory. I can't really explain, other than I'm an alcoholic, and and we kind of do that. And I drank a lot, and it saved my life. Alcohol. It's important that I didn't take it lightly. I mean, it's like. For example, I remember when I was stopping, I stopped and stopped and stopped. I stopped for 3 weeks, I stopped for 3 days, I stopped for a week, just trying to stop all the time. And I remember once I'd stopped for 5 days for a girl. And then she introduced me to her parents after 5 days of not drinking. And her dad poured me a glass of sherry. It was at Sunday lunch, and I took just a little drink of it. And she was kind of looking at me like what was going to happen. But I just had a glass of sherry, and I had to contain myself because I hadn't had a drink for 5 days. And as the glass of sherry filled up my body with the warmth of a nuclear power plant, and as I felt the presence of God Almighty in my veins, as I felt the relief that the people of Mafeking must have felt to finally be freed, I had to hide that from everyone at lunch. But if alcohol does that to you, that's not normal. If it makes you feel that good, it's probably not good. It made me feel that good. And I've talked a lot about how it saved me the day I decided to kill myself. I woke up in a bar, at the room above a bar in London, when I was 29 years old, and it was Christmas morning, and I woke up in pee and, and blood and stuff. I hoped it was mine. And I went to leave the bar. I'd been drinking with this Irish bartender called Tommy, and I went to leave the bar. I woke up in the room above the bar, and as I was leaving, Tommy, it was Christmas morning, it was about 7 a.m., and Tommy was behind the bar. He was already awake, and I didn't want to tell him I was going to go and kill myself because it would alarm him. But he was up and moving around, and I'm not saying he was an alcoholic or anything, but he actually slept in the bar, and he was up moving around and drinking already. And I said I was going to go home, and he said, "You can't get anywhere. It's Christmas morning. There's no taxis or buses and I said, "I know. I'm just going out." And he said, "Well, look." Because I was going to go and kill myself. I was going to go and swan dive off Tower Bridge in London, which is the big dramatic bridge. And I was going to do a big swan dive off it. I don't know how to dive, but I thought I'd pick it up on the way down. And I was on the way to kill myself, and Tommy said to me, "Well, before you go, take a glass of sherry for Christmas morning." And so he poured me a glass of sherry. No, not one that I had at lunch, though, a venti. He poured me a venti. He poured me a venti sherry, and I drank. After about halfway into it, I completely forgot to kill myself, and we moved on. And I loved drinking. I loved it. And then I didn't, and I couldn't stop. And the phenomenon of craving for me seemed so strange, because I talked to people who'd stopped drinking, and I thought the phenomenon. I'd seen kind of Lifetime original movies. I knew about AA a little bit, and so. The phenomenon of craving, I thought, is like, when you were in a church maybe and you had some communion wine and you went nuts and spouted satanic stuff and killed somebody and ran out and got drunk. I didn't. The phenomenon of craving for me was like this. I would be walking down the street in Glasgow, determined not to drink. And I would meet a friend of mine, and he'd say, where are you going? I'd say, well, I'm going to home. And he'd say, well, have you got time for a quick drink? And I would say, oh, well, 10 minutes. And I would have a drink with this guy, and you know, and maybe with 10 minutes, and go, you have to buy, if he buys you one, you have to buy him one. So there's two, and then you have one, and then maybe if you know the barman, he'll say, hey, there's a drink, boys. It's Tuesday. And then you have a drink, and then you say, well, you have time for one more? And say, well, one more, and then I've really got to go. And then you have one more, and then, so, well, I've really got to be, fuck it. And that's the phenomenon of craving. For me, it seems, for me, the phenomenon of craving was a little bit like forgetting. It didn't feel like I desperately needed to have it. It's just like, why was I getting myself in such a pickle about something that had happened yesterday? And I was living my own weird day at a time thing, even then, I think. But eventually I was living with a woman who I think is one of your gang, and the bedwetter, yes please, and still under 30, I can change him. And I love it when Alan Owens laughs. It's like, this is so unusual. I'm kidding. All right, we know what the edge is. I'll come back from that. It's all right. So I was with a woman who I loved very much. I really did. I loved her with all my heart. And she said to me, I can't live with you anymore. I can't live with you and watch you kill yourself. It's too painful. I can't do it. I have to leave you. And I said, all right. Because I agreed with her. I would have left me if I could. I had to stay. She left and I stayed. And then the brakes were off. They were never really on, but they were, you know, I got really drunk for a while, and then I remembered my friend Jimmy that I used to drink with and that I used to do coke with, and Jimmy that I had some adventures with. By the way, I did coke as well. I don't want to shock anybody, but I did drugs as well as alcohol. I was very concerned when I came to AA. When I was new, I was very concerned at keeping everything separate. You know, and I was confused by the drug-alcohol issue. Here's my story as regards to it. When I was drinking, if someone came to a bar and said, would you like some cocaine? I'd be like, yes, please, gosh darn it, let's get going with the cocaine and the alcohol. But, I'm paraphrasing, but, if somebody came into the bar when I was drinking and said, hey, do you want to go to that guy Frankie's house? He's got cocaine, he'll sell it to us. I would be like, if Frankie wants to sell me cocaine, he can come to the bar because it's open.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
And that, to me, seems to be the difference between an alcoholic and a drug addict. The alcoholic will stay in the bar. Now, you have to bring the drugs in. We gotta bring them in. Ship the drugs in. Oh, you drug addicts leaving a perfectly good bar to go and get your drugs. What's wrong with you people? Anyway, my friend Jimmy that I used to get messed up with, Jimmy had disappeared, and I had seen him across a few crowded rooms over a period of a couple of months. He was wearing a sweater, and his eyes were clear, and he was all kind of, I thought he'd become, you know, a Jehovah's Witness or something, and not that that's a problem, you know. So I called up Jimmy. Well, I tried to call Jimmy, but I didn't have his telephone number. Because I don't know, I had a hard time keeping track of numbers then, and so I called up a friend of his and said, I need. This was at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the guy that I called up, the friend that he had, wasn't in AA or had any need to be. But I called him up and I said, hey, I really need Jimmy's number. It's an emergency. And he said, okay. And he gave me the number, and he said, the reason I'm awake, by the way, before you call Jimmy, is because Jimmy just got married. I've just come from his wedding. So that's why I'm awake. Anyway, call him. It's his wedding night. So I didn't call. I was too embarrassed to call. And I get drunk for the rest of the weekend. And on Monday, he must have bumped into that friend of his, because he called me and he said, why didn't you call me? You could have saved my life. And I thought, what happened to you, man? But there was something in the way that he was communicating with me that seemed very strange, that seemed paradoxical and magical. And I'm drawn to that. And I talked to him and I said, I can't take it anymore, Jimmy. I can't do it. And he said, okay, well, I'll get you in. He got me into a treatment center. I'm a product of a treatment center. I went through rehab. I've got many friends who didn't go through rehab and who got sober in AA. I don't want to perpetuate any kind of a myth that you can't get sober in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. You can. I know many people who can and do and have done. It's just that my story isn't that. I went to a treatment center, and Jimmy got me in. He called up this treatment center and he said, they've got one bed they can give you today, or because it's a holiday weekend, you can get in on Tuesday. I said, I'll take Tuesday. Man, I was so drunk that weekend. But at the end of it, funnily enough, the organization of it was so bad. I wasn't great at organizing my partying. And my last drink, I went round to my sister's house in London because I'd run out of money and opportunity to get booze, and I was still sober. And so I went to her house and I said, sober in that horrible way, you know, not actually sober, just not drunk enough to be unconscious. And I got my sister had half a bottle of cheap German dessert wine in her cooking cabinet or whatever she calls it, and so she gave me that. That was my last drink, a half bottle of Liebfrau milk. It means lamb's milk, I think, or maiden's milk, whatever it is. It's no good to me now. Anyway, I got into the treatment center, and Jimmy, my friend, that had become this weird, shiny person, drove me in his new convertible to this treatment center in the country, and and he said, well, and on the way there I said, guess what, Jimmy, I'm giving up smoking and I'm going on a diet as well today. And he stopped at a gas station and bought me a carton of cigarettes and a big box of candy and handed them to me, and he said, easy does it, my friend. And I was halfway through the candy by the time we got to the treatment center, but it was like that chocolate thing they gave us tonight, man. If you could finish that, by the way, you need to talk to your sponsor. You know. So Jimmy drove me to the treatment center, and as he left me at this very nice place, he said, well, the war's over, Craig, and you lost. Ha ha! And drove away. And I was all crying and everything. I was crying. I was 29 years old. I was wet in the bed and crying. Good times. Yes, euphoric recall, my ass. So I went to this treatment center, and they were fantastic. A lot of the people there were in the fellowship themselves. A lot of people were recovering alcoholics and drug addicts, and they were counselors. They're professional people, which meant they take money for getting you through that period of time. And, that's what they did, and that was their business, and they helped me out. It's not AA, We don't take money in AA, at least not as I understand it. I've heard of this thing up in Hollywood. They have something called Sober Companions, where you give a guy money and he keeps you sober. Apparently it works really well for Charlie Sheen, but what the... Hey! Chuck C. from Orange County, I believe, who said, for free and for fun. For free and for fun. Don't take money for this deal. So, I go to a place where they take money for this deal, and they get me sober. They helped me. They were really good to me, and it was a very kind of touchy-feely place. It was based on the Hazelden model, you know, which is unusual in Britain, or was at that time. It was lots of kind of hugs, not drugs, and conversations, and talking about your life and your early childhood and trauma, and, you know, inventory type stuff. It was good, you know. It worked for me, certainly. And then after I came out of the treatment centre, they told me in there, by the way, that they had a couple of ideas that seemed a little strange to me now, but they said 2 months in a treatment centre is like 2 years sobriety outside a treatment centre. I was like, oh, great, I'm ahead of the game. And when I came out of there, I had to go back to Glasgow, where I'm from, to do some work, and I started going to AA meetings there, and I was scared, you know. I was scared going to AA meetings in my hometown, and I went to the, if you're ever in Glasgow, go to the South Side meeting on a Wednesday night. It's great. I went there, it was my first meeting in Glasgow, and it was all shipyard workers, really tough looking people, most of them men, but I can't be sure. And they were really, you know, they're tough, and I walked in, and, you know, I was the first new face in a while. A lot of these guys knew each other. They had been, you know, sober for a while, and they'd get sober when, you know, they get sober when this wasn't a reproduction. You know, and they would be sober a while, and so they said, son, lovely, come and speak. And in this meeting, this particular meeting, if you're the speaker at the meeting, you speak for 45 minutes. So they got me up there, and I spoke for 45 minutes to these, you know, long-time sober shipyard workers, and I told them how they should embrace their inner child, and how they should... how maybe they would write a letter to the 10-year-old version of themselves asking for forgiveness for the people they'd become. And I told them what I knew. I was trying to help them. And after I was finished, not one of them didn't come over to me and say, that was wonderful, son, keep coming back. That was wonderful. And they meant it. They meant it. I could tell they meant it. And I go back and I talk to them now and they laugh about it, but they did. They meant it. You know, and I felt them meaning it. I knew they meant it. I knew I was where I should be. I've known this about AA the whole time I've been in AA. The only time I've worried about being in AA and not, you know, is when I wasn't in AA, when I was on the edges of it, when I was kind of hanging around and not being in it. And I'm very grateful to these, mostly the men that I dealt with then, because they were, many of them were communists. Many of them had worked in the shipyards in Glasgow, you know, between the wars, and that had been a very powerful movement then. They were communists and they were atheists. And I am grateful to these people because they held the door open for me. They made it easy for me to get in. They had a belief system which was unusual by what I understand now as a higher power, but it kept the door open for me. And I don't agree with them, and it's not my belief system, but it saved my life. And so I became, for want of a better word, I guess, sober. I got involved. I went to the meeting. And after about a year, I got to go back and live in London, where I had come from, you know, when I'd been doing all my drinking, and I had to go back there and work. And I started meeting people my own age, and you know, there were meetings with girls in them, and they were fantastic girls. Alcoholic women are so awesome. They are. Especially if you're new and cute. And I was new and I was cute. And they were great to me. And I made some friends, real friends, people who are still friends now. And And I started to experience laughter in recovery, which I had not experienced before. A kind of transcendental laughter, real bone-shaking laugh, like real laughter. And I'm not talking about that tripping laughter when you're like, oh, when will this hilarity ever end? I can't take it anymore. You're like, real, just a good time and good friends. And after a couple of years of being sober, I thought, you know, this seems to me like anything is possible here. And my secret dream had always been to go to Hollywood and get into show business in Hollywood. And I thought, you know what, if not now, when? I'll do it. They've got meetings there, I'll be all right. And so I did. I came to Los Angeles. I went to 1995. I was just under 3 years sober, and I got to LA, and I started going to meetings, and the meetings weren't being run the way they had been run in London, so I told everyone, I told them where they were going wrong, and they said, that was great, son, keep coming back, and I made friends, but slowly. Tolerant people embraced me first. And I started to do okay. I was doing all right in LA, and things were turning around. It actually was kind of weird. I was going to meetings, and I was all right, and I got a job in the business that I wanted to be in, and I started to make a little money. I'd never made any money before. Not really. I had some money, and it was kind of freaking me out. And I went to the men's meeting on a Tuesday night in Olympic, and it's a crosstalk meeting. In Hollywood, and I said how concerned I was about making money. I didn't know how to handle making money, and 3 guys borrowed money off me that night. And not one of them has ever paid me back. And the bastards didn't have the decency to get drunk. My sponsor says AA is a far from exclusive club, but you definitely qualify as a member. Anyway, that cured me of talking about worrying about how much money I was making. And I was just getting by, I was just talking, you know. But what happened was that I started to drift away a little bit from maybe what I had learned in the beginning and in the treatment center, which was valid stuff. I'm flippant about it, but it worked clearly for me. And then what I'd learned in Glasgow and what I'd learned in London and what I'd learned from my new friends in Los Angeles and what I learned in AA, I started looking for more. What a surprise. I was looking for more. And I was working with an actress at the time who said to me, you know, maybe it's, you know, alcoholism. And I'm like, yes. She said, but I think it's something to do with your aura. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, your aura is, it's probably your aura. She said, I go and see this person and I get an aura massage and that'll really straighten you out. And I'm like, amen. So, because I was feeling bad at the time, I really was. I was feeling very unsettled. I didn't have time to go to meetings. I was too busy making money, and so I went to get my aura massaged at the. Now I'd been for massages before when I was drinking, but it's not like them, you know. I went to the aura massage parlor, I guess is what you call them. I don't know, the aura massage place, and I went in and I didn't know what to do, and the lady there said, all right, strip down to your boxers and lie there. And I thought, okay, this is fine. And I lay down in this thing, and then she did something, didn't touch me at all, just got around my aura. Apparently there was a lot of purple going on, and that was bad. And so she did something with my aura, and I didn't know what to do, so I just said, oh, that feels a lot better. So, listen, by the way, if you get your aura massaged, I'm not casting aspersions on that. If that works for you, fantastic. I'm just saying this is what happened. And I went, and I got my aura massaged, and at the end of it, when I was writing the check for the aura thing. She said, write on the check the name of and say it's a chiropractic clinic. And then you can, she said, and because if you say that, you can claim it on your insurance. And that is at the moment when Glasgow and treatment and AA just lined up perfectly, and I went, doesn't that fuck with your aura? Don't drink, go to meetings, do the steps, meet old timers in IHOP and listen to them over and over again. I used to think, what is the deal with old timers in IHOP? Is there a secret sponsorship thing going on or something? I felt really bad round about this aura time. You know, I was really in trouble. I was really feeling terrible. And obviously, I was kind of making desperate attempts at something. And so I called up my sponsor when I got back from the aura. He said, you know, you can call me before you go for the aura massage. I'm like, all right. I've had the same sponsor since the first meeting I had out of treatment. It's the same guy. He grew up 10 miles from me. I mean, wives have come and gone. It's like just me and this. We're like an old married couple, man. He lives in Atlanta, I live in LA, and that's about as close as we can do. He's fantastic, you know. And so he defined sponsorship for me like this. He said, okay, Craig, here's what happens. I hold the flashlight, you dig. All right. And he's like, hey, what's that over there? Oh, you don't want to look at that. Yeah, I want to look at that. Oh, man. So I called up my sponsor and I said, I'm losing my mind here, man. I'm just going for an aura massage. He went, oh. He said, well, luckily, there was a guy he knew who's a salesman who was, in fact, in Orange County that weekend. I was up in LA, and this guy was in Orange County, and he said, this guy, I've known this guy. I used to drink with this guy, son. Let me tell you, he was a bigger drunk than you. I'm like, it's not a competition, man. And he's like, anyway, he was crazy and great sobriety, son. Go and talk to him. He's down somewhere in Orange County, and he gave me the address, and so I drove down. I called up this guy first. I said, can I come and talk to you? I'm feeling crazy. And he went, yeah, come and see me immediately, son. Meet me in the IHOP off the freeway. And I drive down and I meet this traveling salesman from Scotland who happened to be somewhere in Orange County. I really don't remember where it was. And we were in an IHOP, and I eventually got to see him. I started to think everything's going to be. I sat down with this guy, and before I could even start talking to him about how upset I was and how I felt, he told me all about his problems. And I started to relax. And I understand that. You know, I understand that now. And I said to him, I feel so bad. He said, look, son, if you want to feel as good as you felt when you first came in, do what you did when you first came in. Be as attentive, go to as many meetings, be as desperate to be sober as you were. And you'll feel as good as you did. That's what happens. And I was like, oh. And then I wanted some kind of graduate thing, you know. I wanted more. And he said, son, what you have to do in AA is you have to stick with the winners. It's very important. And I said, okay, who are the winners? And he said, we take turns. And it's true. Some days I had to take. I used to have bumper stickers in my car and stuff, but I have to take them off. Because, you know, I'm like, easy does it. I can't. I can't do that. I can't be an example other than be in the middle of AA. I'm an alcoholic who stays sober a day at a time. It's a miracle. It was defined for me that in London, in my early sobriety, I went to a meeting just off Trafalgar Square. It was a meeting where a lot of people who were there were just coming in or were living on the street, a lot of them with emotional and mental problems. I'm sure you've all been to meetings like this, and if you haven't, you're robbing yourself. You're robbing yourself. Meet the alcoholics who are on the front lines. Meet them, they're so beautiful. And it's funny how odd I feel in those types of meetings. I went once to a meeting, I was telling some girls this before that we started tonight. I went to a meeting in the Bahamas, and I had been there doing some work, and I got to this meeting, and there was about 4 or 5 people in this meeting, and they had Bahamian accents, and they were crazy. I mean, like the meeting started, and they're like barking and stuff. I'm not talking about they're saying stuff that's kind of a little bit odd. They were like, yeah, ah, ah. Guys were doing things, and the guy with the money was shaking, and I was there, and as the meeting progressed, what really freaked me out is how comfortable I began to feel. I was like, oh my God, these are my people. And when I was in my early sobriety, I was in a meeting like that in London, and there was a lot of that going on. And I used to go to other meetings too. I used to go to the meetings in Chelsea in London, which is a very, very nice meetings there. People tend to be a little, they kind of look like you guys. You know, they're clean and they're pretty, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. But I was at a meeting in Chelsea in London, and everyone was talking about, you know, oh gosh, the nanny's got the flu and stuff, and yeah, I'm making too much money, you know. And this guy who clearly should have been at the Trafalgar Square meeting but didn't know, hadn't seen the memo, he walked in, and he was a tramp, he was a hobo, he was one of us. He's the reminder you see on the street corner from time to time, and you go, oh yeah, that's it. Well, he's one of them, and he decided he wanted to speak. So, you know, during the sharing, he put his hand up, and he got picked, and he stood up and he went, ah! And sat down. And everybody was kind of uncomfortable. It's very hard to know what to say, you know. And then there was an old Irish fella who's dead now, died sober, which means he won. And his name was Andre. He was a beautiful man, and he was sober for a very long time. And if they had IHOPs in London at that time, he would have fucking lived in them. And Andre was beautiful, and he understood this disease, and he understood the recovery from this disease, and there are people like this, of course. And after the guy went, and sat down, Andre said, I'd like to share. And they said, all right. And Andre said, I'd just like to thank my friend there for sharing. Because everyone else is completely quiet. He said, I'd like to thank my friend for sharing. And reminding me, then, when a human being walks through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, the heavens fall silent as another human being is restored to dignity. It's nothing less than that. We can laugh and we can joke about it, and I do frequently. I'm happy to be sober, and I feel good about it, and I'm okay with it, and I'm not ashamed of it, and I'm not worried about it. But I would stress to you the fatal nature of your condition and mine, and that there are people that don't make it. This is a big convention. But the people that die drunk, they got a bigger convention than this. You know, so we're the lucky ones. And I try and maintain gratitude because I have been that alcoholic who is looking for a reward for getting a gift in the first place. You know, when am I I've been sober for this long, and now when do I get my new hat? You know, sobriety is its reward, and I am testament to this, that a life beyond your wildest dreams. Beyond your wild, and I had some pretty wild dreams. This is virgin snow. We are at the forefront of a change. This is a change in the world. So I've been going with 75 years now, just 75 years. Look at this. Look at this. Can you imagine if you add alcohol to this room right now? Good luck, hotel staff. I would like to thank you for saving my life one more time. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you for including me in this most wonderful fellowship of yours. Thank you. Good night.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected, So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.